Hey everybody, today is very important. While things are pretty calm right now, we've got some major changes coming and I'm itching to talk about them. Sure, in the short term, things are kind of quiet, but don't let that fool you. There's still plenty going on and some of it is going to get really interesting over the next few days. One of the biggest things happening is this insane temperature swing that's about to hit, especially across the central and southwestern United States. Right now, we're still seeing below average temperatures in the eastern and southeastern parts of the country, but out west, that warm air is building up fast. By the time we hit Tuesday, it's going to spread across almost the entire U.S. Most of us will be above average, maybe not right along the Gulf Coast just yet, but don't worry, you guys will catch up. The warmth piling up over the central U.S. is going to make it feel like summer in the Southwest and spring in the central states as we roll into the early part of next week. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Now, check this out. This blew my mind. Just a few days ago in North Dakota, they hit a low of negative 45 degrees, and tomorrow they're looking at a high of 50. That's almost a 100-degree temperature swing in just a matter of days, and that kind of crazy shift is happening across much of the southwest and central U.S., with record-breaking warmth expected in the southwest. That heat is eventually going to spread east, and most of us will be feeling above average temperatures. But here's the thing. This big warm up isn't just a nice break from winter. It's actually setting the stage for the next round of storms. We'll get into that in just a minute. But first, let's talk about what's happening in the short term, because there's some wild weather on the way. Short term weather outlook. Up in the northwest, we've got an atmospheric river continuing over the next couple of days. That's going to dump a ton of rain in Washington and Oregon and drop a lot of snow in the Cascades. Meanwhile, down south, we've got this really unusual storm brewing in the Gulf of Mexico. It's acting almost like a tropical or subtropical system, and it's heading toward Louisiana and the Gulf Coast. By Monday, it's going to push into Florida, and that's when things get messy. We're talking about a serious deluge of heavy rain, especially around the Miami and Fort Lauderdale on Monday and Tuesday. Flash flooding is definitely a concern. We could see 2 to 3 inches of rain in New Orleans and similar totals in parts of Florida. But what's not showing up well on the forecast maps is just how intense these downpours are going to be. I'm talking tropical style rain, not your average shower. We could easily see rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour in spots like Miami, and some areas could rack up 4 or even 5 inches total. And it's not just Florida and the Gulf Coast getting hit. The Northwest is in for a lot of action too. Through Wednesday, some places could see over 9 inches of rain. Higher elevations are going to get feet of snow. And with that much moisture in the mix, we're looking at potential flash flooding and even landslides. Strong winds coming. Oh, and don't forget the wind. This atmospheric river is going to bring 60-mile-per-hour winds, not just in the Cascades, but all the way out into the Rockies and high plains. So if you're anywhere from Idaho to Wyoming, get ready for some serious gusts. Long-term forecast, a big pattern shift. So what happens after that? Well, once we get past this short-term chaos, we're headed for some big shifts in the long-range forecast. This warm-up we're seeing right now is just the beginning. All signs point to a very stormy and active start to March, and I've got a lot of info on that coming up. Let's take a look at the GFS models and figure out what's going on with this warm-up and what it means for the next big pattern shift. You can see this big ridge forming over the western U.S., and that's what's driving the warmth. It's going to stick around for the next 6 to 10 days, pushing above average temperatures across the Southwest, Midwest, and eventually the Southeast. But here's where things get interesting. Around March 2nd to March 5th, that ridge starts to break down, and we see a trough forming over the Rockies. That's a classic setup for stormy weather, and all the models agree on this, which is rare this far out. When we see this much consensus, we know something big is coming. What does that look like at the surface? Well, after this week's brief cool down in the Northeast, things stay relatively quiet for a few days, but by early March, we see widespread precipitation kicking in east of the Rockies, and from there, things are going to get really active. We see multiple low pressure systems forming, and this lines up perfectly with the average tornado risk area for March from Oklahoma to Georgia. So if you're in those areas, now is the time to be prepared. Go over your tornado action plan. Make sure you know what to do when warnings come through. And of course, subscribe to this channel. When those storms hit, we'll be here live with storm chasers on the ground, keeping you updated in real time. But hey, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. For now, most of us are getting a bit of a break. Yeah, there's still some cold air hanging on in the Northeast and some rain in the Southeast and Northwest. But overall, we're in for mostly calm weather over the next 6 to 10 days. So let's take advantage of that while we can. Storm systems rolling in from the Pacific. While all of that's happening in the Northeast, we'll also have multiple storm systems rolling in from the Pacific Ocean. The first system arrives Saturday into Sunday, hitting the Southwest. This one doesn't look like a major player just yet. Maybe some showers and isolated thunderstorms. But by early next week, it could bring some severe weather to the southern plains. The system I'm really watching is coming next Tuesday and Wednesday. This one is going to be a bigger deal. We're talking about a large-scale trough moving over the Rockies with strong jet stream support and a ton of cold and warm air mixing. That means snowfall near the low-pressure center and a possible severe weather outbreak in the southern plains, southeast, and Ohio Valley. Now, I want to be clear, this is still 8 to 10 days out, and a lot can change. We don't have exact details yet on snowfall totals or severe weather locations, but confidence is growing that we'll see a large, impactful storm sometime in the first week of March. And honestly, there could be more than one major storm on the horizon. So if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. I'll keep you posted with the latest updates as this pattern develops. Future radar, what's happening? Over the next few days, let's simplify things a bit and take a look at the future radar. Today, showers and thunderstorms are moving through Florida, with the highest tornado risk south of Tampa and into the Florida Keys later this afternoon. Offshore waterspouts are also possible, Midwest and northern U.S. Snow and rain are mostly staying up in Canada, but some light showers will drift into the northern U.S. over the next few days. We'll see a couple of Alberta clippers sliding through the Great Lakes and Northeast, bringing light to moderate snow, but nothing that looks like a full-on winter storm. Most areas will see no more than 3 to 4 inches of snow with these systems. Midweek, this is when things really ramp up. By midweek, we could be looking at a much larger storm system with both severe weather and a significant winter storm component. It's still too early for exact details, but I'll keep you updated as things become clearer. Pacific, Northwest, more rain. Incoming over in the Pacific Northwest, you've already had a ton of rain, and there's more on the way. Over the next 48 hours, expect another 1 to 3 inches of rain in parts of Washington and Oregon, which could lead to more mudslides and flooding. In the southeast, rain will mostly stay offshore in the Gulf, but southern Florida and the Keys could see 3 to 6 inches of localized rainfall. Flooding will be a concern, so remember, turn around, don't drown, tornado threat. Today, the tornado threat is focused on the Florida Keys this afternoon with higher tornado parameters offshore. Any supercells that pop up could spin up a waterspout or even a tornado. That risk diminishes after about 5 or 6 p.m., but it's definitely a day to stay weather aware. Temperature outlook. Despite all this wild weather, a lot of the country is staying pretty warm over the next week. Above average temperatures will stick around through the middle and end of this week. But, and this is a big but, we've got another shot of Arctic air coming into the Ohio Valley, Northeast, and Midwest this weekend. It's not going to be as intense as that February cold blast, but it's still going to be a noticeable shift. Looking ahead to March, I think we're in for an active month. We'll likely see more severe weather and a couple of sneaky winter storms before winter finally wraps up. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for the latest weather updates.